Coming into this season, the Dallas Mavericks had extremely high hopes for their team. The year before, they had just made the conference finals and they had an emerging young team. And at the start of the year, the Mavericks looked decent. They were flirting around the 3 to 6 seed and they were a couple games over 500. But in the trade deadline, they went all in for Kyrie Irving, and let's just say it hasn't gone as well as planned. There have now been rumors and sources saying that the Mavericks are considering shutting down both Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, and that is still crazy that the Mavericks most likely, from what it seems like, will miss the play-in, not just the playoffs, the play-in, which is absolutely crazy. With Kyrie Irving, they're currently 7-12, and when you just watch them, they just are missing a bunch of stuff. They don't have an identity. And yes, the offense has been absolutely incredible ever since the Kyrie trade, but they just haven't been good. And as we know, basketball is a two-way game, and if they're just one of the worst defensive teams I've seen in a long time, just look at their previous box score against the Miami Heat. Luka Doncic had 42 points, Kyrie Irving had 23, and Tim Hardaway Jr. had 31 points. 3 productive performances by, I would say, the 3 best scoring players. And yes, if you score that many points with your best players, you should theoretically win the game, but they lost to the Miami Heat, and they literally let Cody Zeller drop almost a 20-point double-double on their head. No one else on the Mavericks team had over 8 points, and although they shot 61% from the field, they still weren't even close. It was, yes, a single-digit game, but they were never close to even beat the Heat, and this is not good. And of course, they just don't have a defensive identity. And I think we've seen over the last couple of years, we've seen teams try to go all in on offense, and it unfortunately has not worked. We saw maybe an extreme example, but the Nets, yes, they had injury issues, but their defense wasn't good. And when their offense wasn't as good as expected, they struggled. This Mavericks team, they literally have only played, yes, like 20 games, but we've seen the impact that not having that defensive identity, especially for this team. Last season, they had a top 5 defense, and we saw them make it all the way to the conference finals. And we saw that Luka Doncic can carry most of the offense, and as long as everyone else can at least be solid defensively and be able to shoot a little bit, this team can be successful. And this season, they don't have any, unfortunately don't have any good defenders. They traded Dorian Finney-Smith, who was their best perimeter defender and had all the intangibles that every team needs. And now you have Christian Wood and JaVale McGee being your bigs. And yes, I'm a big fan of JaVale McGee, but like, it's JaVale McGee in 2023. What do you expect from him? Christian Wood, I still think he's a little bit overrated. His offense, sure. His offensive versatility is pretty solid, but if you just watch him play defense, there's something just that's not there, that he just gets abused, he gets targeted, and the opponent team just keeps on cooking on Christian Wood. And like Maxi Kleber, I mean, I would say he's a solid defender, but like, he's not, I would say, a good one. Reggie Bullock, the Mavericks thought that he could be that Dorian Finney-Smith role, and unfortunately, he's smaller, he's not as strong, and it hasn't worked out. And of course, you have Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, and I would say they are not as bad defensively as some people say, but like, they haven't been good. They're not good, and especially with all the priorities they have to do on offense, they don't have the time and energy to apply it all the way to the defensive side. And of course, Kyrie's like 6'1", Luka isn't the most athletic player, but like, this team just is not good. And now that Luka and Kyrie are, I would say, pretty much upset, we saw Kyrie say that, oh, this is not what I expected this team to be, being in the play-in, and now being out of the play-in, their overall future is not good. I think that we can pretty much, unfortunately, with only like 3 to 4 games left in the season, this might be a done season for the Mavericks, unless they can magically win, fix all their problems, win every game in the rest of the regular season, the Thunder or the Wolves lose all their games, and maybe they make the play-in. But like, there's no way all of these issues on the defensive side are gonna be fixable. And if they do make the playoffs, they're probably gonna get destroyed by the Nuggets. And I heard there's like reports they want to get a top 10 pick, which of course, if you have Luka Doncic, that should not be a goal that you want, but it's really not doing good. And with Kyrie being a free agent, that makes things even worse. They went all in, of course, trading Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, and a couple picks for Kyrie to go all in to give Luka some offensive help. But yes, like I said, the offense has been incredible, top 3 in the league. But if they can't get stops, if their offense for a little bit goes cold, they're not going to win a game, which is too much pressure, of course, to have an offense that you're going to score almost every possession. And it's just a tough spot for them. Kyrie is one of the most unpredictable players in the league. And honestly, I don't think many teams are going to give him a max contract. Like, the Mavericks have the money, I'm pretty sure, to give him the max. But, like, from what we've seen, do you really want to keep this, like, roster together? And yes, they need, if they can get some more defensive players, like a defensive big, someone like Jakob Poeltl, or just someone who can just be a positive protecting the rim, then that's going to be big for this team. Getting a couple like wing defenders like a Torrey Craig or a Jay Crowder, and they don't really have much money to play around, but like if they get those solid players that can just defend, like a Wesley Matthews, not someone like on a minimum, that would help a lot. But like, are they willing to keep Kyrie? I don't know, because like you can't really let him go, because if you let him go and you don't get anything back, then like this was a total disaster, and they pretty much gave up two of their most important players. I would say this season before the Kyrie trade, Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie were at least two of the top 4 players on the team, and just letting them go for Kyrie, who may walk. I mean, this all, of course, goes back to Luka. Like, does Luka want to stay in this franchise? Besides, of course, drafting Jalen Brunson, the Mavericks really have not made that many good moves. Okay, the Porzingis trade at the time looked like a good move. They were getting a star player who, yes, had injury issues, but seemed like a good fit with Luka. But of course, that didn't work out, more injury issues. And then, like, they have these, like, middle, like 18 to 15 to 20-ish picks, and yes, I think Josh Green's a good player, but like they haven't really hit on any of them. Besides, like, their trades have always been like a lateral move, not pushing them up. And honestly, if they just kept Jalen Brunson, just were willing to give Jalen Brunson the money that he wanted, it was like a $50 million deal, I think, for a couple years. And of course, they of course regret it, but like after what they saw from, I think, the 2021 playoffs against the Clippers, where he played pretty bad, you need to have some like more faith. And like what we saw in the 2022 playoffs was replicable, was just a good fit for Luka and Jalen Brunson. So I mean, you can't really change the past, so they can't. So there's not much of a point speculating what would happen. But like, the Mavericks just have not made good moves, and like Luka is not going to be happy. I mean, we've seen Luka Doncic is at least a top 5 to 6 player in the league, and he can lead an entire franchise on his back and carry it to at least the conference finals appearance. Which, if you have that type of a generational type of talent, you have to be just productive, make good moves. And yes, some of the moves looked good on paper, and they just didn't work out, unfortunately. But like, this is not. That would be really weird if Luka requested trade, but like from the path we're seeing from the Mavericks, from the moves they're making, it may honestly be possible. And the Mavs are just failing Luka Doncic. I just want to see Luka get some help. And yes, some of the moves have just not worked out for them, which is like really unfortunate. But like, I don't know. Next couple years are going to be really interesting to watch for this Mavericks team and how the Mavericks build around Luka. So with that being said, that's the video. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on next time.